The turquoise waters of Newark's coast beckoned to me as I zipped up my wetsuit, the salty breeze tousling my blonde hair. I'm Avery, a 35-year-old diving enthusiast with an insatiable appetite for underwater adventures. Today was supposed to be a solo expedition, a chance to clear my head and escape the mundane routines of city life. As I secured my diving gear and checked my oxygen levels, I couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary awaited me beneath the waves. Little did I know, fate had orchestrated a meeting that would change the course of my life forever. Slipping into the cool embrace of the ocean, I descended into a world of shimmering blue. Schools of vibrant fish darted around me, their scales catching the filtered sunlight. I was in my element, weightless and free. As I glided through a coral formation, movement in my peripheral vision caught my attention. Another diver, I realized, observing the same reef. Curious, I swam closer. The diver turned, and through the mask, I glimpsed the most captivating pair of green eyes I'd ever seen. They crinkled at the corners, suggesting a smile hidden behind the breathing apparatus. The diver gestured towards a crevice in the reef, inviting me to look closer. As I approached, I saw what had captured their attention. Nestled in the coral was a creature I'd only read about in diving magazines, a rare species of pygmy seahorse, its tiny form perfectly camouflaged against the vibrant coral. My heart raced with excitement, not just from the discovery, but from the shared moment of wonder with this mysterious stranger. We spent the next hour exploring the reef together, communicating through hand signals and shared glances. There was an undeniable connection, a silent understanding that transcended words. As our air supplies dwindled, we reluctantly began our ascent. Breaking the surface, I removed my mask, blinking in the bright sunlight. The other diver emerged beside me, pulling off her hood to reveal a cascade of chestnut hair. "Hi," she said, her voice warm and slightly breathless. "I'm Amelia." "Avery," I replied, suddenly aware of how fast my heart was beating. That was incredible. Amelia's smile was radiant. "The pygmy seahorse? I've been hoping to spot one for months. I'm a marine biologist," she explained as we swam towards the shore. Once on the beach, we couldn't stop talking. Amelia's passion for marine life was infectious, and I found myself hanging on her every word. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the water, she suggested grabbing a drink at a nearby beachside bar. The bar was a cozy, weathered wooden structure, filled with the chatter of locals and the smell of salt and rum. We claimed 2 stools, our legs brushing as we sat down. Amelia ordered a mojito while I opted for a classic margarita. "So, what brings you to Newark?" I asked, trying not to stare at the way the fading sunlight played on her sun-kissed skin. Amelia took a sip of her drink, her eyes twinkling. "Research primarily, but I also work part-time as a massage therapist to make ends meet. What about you?" "Born and raised here," I admitted, "but I've always been drawn to the ocean. It's my escape." As we talked, I found myself leaning closer, drawn in by Amelia's warmth and the subtle scent of her perfume mingling with the ocean air. When her hand accidentally brushed mine as she reached for her drink, I felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with the alcohol. The evening flew by in a blur of laughter and shared stories. As we finally said goodnight, Amelia hesitated, then pulled out a business card. "If you ever want a professional massage after a long day of diving, or just another dive buddy," she said with a shy smile, "give me a call." I took the card, my fingers lingering against hers for a moment too long. "I will," I promised, already knowing that I'd be dialing her number sooner rather than later. As I walked home along the moonlit beach, Amelia's card clutched in my hand. I couldn't shake the feeling that my life had just taken an unexpected and thrilling turn. The ocean had always been my greatest love, but now, for the first time, I wondered if there might be room in my heart for something, or someone, more. The next few days passed in a blur of anticipation. I found myself constantly reaching for Amelia's card, tracing the embossed letters with my fingertips. Finally, unable to resist any longer, I dialed her number. "Avery?" Her voice was warm and surprised. "I was hoping you'd call." We agreed to meet for another dive that weekend. As I waited on the beach, my heart skipped a beat when I saw her approaching. Amelia was a vision in her wetsuit, her chestnut hair pulled back in a practical braid. Her green eyes lit up when she saw me, and I felt a flutter in my stomach that had nothing to do with pre-dive jitters. "Ready to explore?" she asked, her smile infectious. We spent the morning diving, discovering hidden caves and marveling at the underwater world. Amelia's knowledge of marine life added a new dimension to the experience. I found myself watching her as much as our surroundings, captivated by her graceful movements and the way her eyes sparkled with excitement behind her mask. As we surfaced, breathless and exhilarated, Amelia suggested we grab lunch at a nearby cafe. Over sandwiches and iced tea, our conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about our lives, our dreams, and our shared love for the ocean. I learned that Amelia had moved to Newark for a research project, studying the impact of climate change on local marine ecosystems. "It's not just about the science," she explained passionately. "It's about preserving this beautiful world for future generations." I nodded, captivated by her dedication. "I've always felt a connection to the ocean, but you've given me a whole new perspective." As we talked, I couldn't help but notice the little things, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the light dusting of freckles across her nose, the gentle curve of her lips as she smiled. I found myself leaning in, drawn to her like a tide to the shore. Our hands brushed as we reached for our drinks simultaneously. The contact sent a jolt through me, and I saw a flicker of something. Surprise? Desire? In Amelia's eyes. We both pulled back, a moment of tension hanging between us. "So," I said, trying to break the sudden awkwardness, "you mentioned you're also a massage therapist?" Amelia nodded, seeming grateful for the change of subject. "Yes, it helps pay the bills. Marine biology isn't always the most lucrative field," she chuckled. "I've been having some shoulder pain lately," I ventured, heart racing. "Maybe I could book a session?" "Of course," Amelia replied, her professional demeanor slipping into place. "I have an opening tomorrow evening if you're free." The next day, I found myself at Amelia's beachfront apartment, nervous energy thrumming through my body. She greeted me warmly, ushering me into a small room set up for massages. The space was dimly lit, with soft music playing and the scent of lavender in the air. "Make yourself comfortable," Amelia said, gesturing to the massage table. "I'll step out while you undress and get under the sheet." As I lay face down on the table, I tried to calm my racing heart. The door opened softly, and I felt Amelia's presence beside me. "Let me know if anything is too much pressure," she murmured, her hands coming to rest on my shoulders. As she began to work out the knots in my muscles, I couldn't help but be acutely aware of every touch. Her hands were strong yet gentle, finding tension I didn't even know I had. I tried to focus on my breathing, but all I could think about was the warmth of her skin against mine. "You're carrying a lot of tension," Amelia observed, her fingers working a particularly tight spot. "Diving can be hard on the body if you're not careful." I mumbled in agreement, not trusting myself to speak. As her hands moved lower down my back, I felt a warmth spreading through me that had nothing to do with the massage. When her fingers grazed the side of my ribcage, I couldn't suppress a small gasp. Amelia paused. "Are you okay? Did I hurt you?" "No," I managed, my voice slightly husky. "It's perfect." The massage continued, but there was a new tension in the air, an awareness that crackled between us like electricity. When Amelia finally stepped back and said softly, "We're done," I felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. I sat up slowly, clutching the sheet to my chest. Amelia was looking at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the air heavy with unspoken words. "I should go," I said finally, breaking the spell. Amelia nodded, stepping back. "Of course. I hope you found the massage helpful." As I dressed and prepared to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between us. At the door, we hesitated, caught in another moment of tension. "Thank you," I said softly, "for everything." Amelia smiled, a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. "Anytime, Avery. Will I see you for another dive soon?" "Absolutely," I replied, meaning it with every fiber of my being. As I walked home along the moonlit beach, my body relaxed but my mind racing, I knew that I was diving into something far deeper and more thrilling than any ocean. The question was I ready for where this current might take me? The days following the massage were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I found myself constantly replaying every moment, every touch, every loaded glance between Amelia and me. The tension that had built during that session was undeniable, but I was hesitant to act on it. After all, Amelia was a professional, and I didn't want to misinterpret her kindness for something more. Still, I couldn't resist the pull I felt towards her. We continued to meet for dives, each encounter charged with an unspoken electricity. Amelia's passion for the ocean was infectious, and I found myself seeing the underwater world through new eyes. She taught me to identify different species of fish, to understand the delicate balance of the reef ecosystem, and to appreciate the smallest creatures that I'd previously overlooked. During one particularly memorable dive, we discovered a hidden grotto. As we swam into the azure-lit cavern, schools of silvery fish darted around us, their scales catching the filtered sunlight. Amelia turned to me, her eyes wide with wonder behind her mask. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the ocean and the warmth of her presence, I felt a connection deeper than anything I'd experienced before. As we surfaced, treading water in the secluded cove, Amelia removed her mask, her chestnut hair plastered to her face. "Avery," she said, her voice soft but clear over the lapping of the waves. "I need to tell you something." My heart raced as I removed my own mask, meeting her intense gaze. "What is it?" She hesitated, biting her lower lip. I can't stop thinking about you, about us, that massage session." "Did you feel it too?" The admission hung between us, as tangible as the salt in the air. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry despite the ocean around us. "I did," I confessed. "I've been feeling it since the day we met." Amelia's eyes softened, a mixture of relief and anticipation crossing her features. She swam closer, her hand finding mine beneath the water. The touch sent a shiver through me that had nothing to do with the cool ocean. "What do we do about it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us. Our lips met, salty and warm, in a kiss that felt both inevitable and exhilarating. Amelia's arms wound around my neck, and I pulled her closer, our bodies pressed together as we treaded water. When we finally parted, both breathless, Amelia let out a soft laugh. "Well, I guess that answers my question." We swam back to shore, stealing glances and shy smiles. As we packed up our gear, the new dimension to our relationship hung in the air, exciting and a little terrifying. "Come back to my place?" Amelia asked, a hint of nervousness in her voice. "We should talk." I nodded, my stomach fluttering with anticipation. The walk to her beachfront apartment was filled with a charged silence, our hands brushing occasionally, sending sparks through my body. Once inside, Amelia busied herself making tea, her movements betraying her nerves. I sat on her small couch, taking in the cozy space filled with marine biology textbooks, collected seashells, and framed underwater photographs. "So," Amelia said, handing me a steaming mug and sitting beside me, closer than she would have before. "Where do we go from here?" I took a sip of tea, gathering my thoughts. "I like you, Amelia, a lot, but I don't want to complicate your work or your research." She nodded, her green eyes serious. "I've thought about that too. But Avery, I can't ignore what I'm feeling. You've awakened something in me that I can't just push aside." Setting down my mug, I reached for her hand. "I feel the same way. It's like discovering a whole new world underwater. Exciting, a little scary, but so beautiful." Amelia smiled at the analogy, intertwining her fingers with mine. "I like that. So, are we doing this? Really giving it a shot?" Instead of answering, I leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that was softer, more deliberate than our first. Amelia responded eagerly, her free hand coming up to cup my cheek. The kiss deepened, and I found myself being gently pushed back onto the couch, Amelia's body pressed against mine. As things heated up, clothes were shed with a mixture of eagerness and reverence. Each newly revealed patch of skin was explored with gentle touches and soft kisses. Amelia's body was a landscape I longed to map, from the constellation of freckles across her shoulders to the gentle curve of her hips. Our lovemaking was like diving into warm, welcoming waters. We moved together with a natural rhythm, discovering what made each other gasp and moan. Amelia's touch was both confident and tender, drawing out sensations I'd never experienced before. When we finally reached our peak, it was like breaking the surface after a deep dive, exhilarating, breathtaking, and utterly freeing. Afterward, we lay tangled together on the small couch, the sound of distant waves drifting through the open window. Amelia traced lazy patterns on my skin, her head resting on my chest. "That was." She started, then laughed softly. "I don't even have words." I pressed a kiss to the top of her head, inhaling the scent of salt water, and something uniquely Amelia. "I know. It's like we've started our own underwater expedition, just the two of us." She propped herself up on an elbow, her expression suddenly serious. "Avery, I want you to know, this isn't just a fling for me. I really care about you." My heart swelled at her words. "I care about you too, Amelia. More than I thought possible in such a short time." As we drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, I felt a sense of peace and excitement for the future. Like the vast ocean we both loved, this relationship held endless possibilities for discovery and wonder, and I was ready to dive in, heart first. The weeks that followed were a blissful blur of stolen kisses, shared dives, and nights spent tangled in each other's arms. Amelia and I fell into a comfortable rhythm, balancing our newfound relationship with our individual passions and responsibilities. She continued her marine biology research, while I threw myself into learning more about ocean conservation, inspired by her dedication. One sunny afternoon, we decided to explore a lesser-known diving spot off the coast of Newark. The water was a bit choppier than usual, but we were both experienced enough to handle it. As we descended into the azure depths, I felt the familiar thrill of discovery, amplified by Amelia's presence beside me. We swam through a vibrant coral garden, marveling at the kaleidoscope of colors and the darting fish. Amelia pointed out a rare species of nudibranch, its frilly appendages waving gently in the current. I watched her face light up behind her mask, her enthusiasm contagious even underwater. As we ventured deeper, the water grew colder and darker. Amelia signaled that she wanted to investigate a small underwater cave. I nodded, following close behind her. The cave mouth was narrow, barely wide enough for us to swim through single file. Inside, our flashlights revealed a hidden world of strange pale creatures adapted to the darkness. Suddenly, I felt a sharp tug on my ankle. Looking down, I realized with a jolt of panic that my fin had become entangled in a piece of abandoned fishing net. I tugged, trying to free myself, but the more I struggled, the tighter the net seemed to wrap around my leg. Amelia, noticing my distress, swam back to me. Her eyes widened as she took in the situation. She gestured for me to stay calm, then pulled out her diving knife. With careful, precise movements, she began to saw through the thick nylon strands. My heart raced as I watched her work, acutely aware of our limited oxygen supply. The cave suddenly felt oppressively small, the darkness pressing in around us. Just as I felt the first stirrings of real fear, the net finally gave way. Amelia grabbed my hand, pulling me free. We swam out of the cave as quickly as safety allowed, not stopping until we reached shallower, brighter waters. As we began our ascent, following proper decompression protocols, I couldn't take my eyes off Amelia. She had remained so calm, so focused in the face of danger. Her quick thinking had potentially saved my life. Breaking the surface, we both pulled off our masks, gulping in the fresh air. Without a word, Amelia swam to me, wrapping her arms around my neck in a fierce embrace. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice shaky with leftover adrenaline. I nodded, holding her tight. "Thanks to you. Amelia, you were amazing down there." She pulled back slightly, her green eyes searching my face. "When I saw you trapped, I've never been so scared. The thought of losing you." The intensity of her gaze, the raw emotion in her voice, hit me like a tidal wave. In that moment, treading water with the taste of salt on my lips and the warmth of her body against mine, I realized something profound. "I love you," I blurted out, surprising myself with the sudden declaration. Amelia's eyes widened, then softened. A smile spread across her face, radiant as the sun glinting off the waves. "I love you too, Avery. God, I love you so much." Our lips met in a passionate kiss, the near miss we'd just experienced lending an urgency to our embrace. When we finally parted, both breathless, Amelia rested her forehead against mine. "Let's get back to shore," she murmured. "I want to hold you properly." Back on the beach, we hurriedly packed up our gear, stealing glances and touches that promised more to come. The drive to Amelia's apartment was charged with anticipation, our hands clasped tightly over the center console. As soon as the door closed behind us, Amelia pressed me against it, her lips finding mine in a searing kiss. Our wetsuits were peeled off between passionate embraces, leaving a trail of damp neoprene from the entryway to the bedroom. We fell onto the bed, a tangle of limbs and eager hands. This time our lovemaking had an edge of desperation to it, as if we were trying to reaffirm life in the face of what could have been lost. Amelia's touch was electric, sending shivers across my skin. I mapped her body with reverent fingers, committing every curve and freckle to memory. In the aftermath, we lay facing each other, legs intertwined and hands gently exploring. Amelia traced the line of my jaw, her expression thoughtful. "What are you thinking?" I asked softly. She smiled, a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. "I'm thinking about how quickly you've become the most important person in my life. It's exhilarating and terrifying at the same time." I pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "I know exactly what you mean. It's like diving into unknown waters, thrilling, a little scary, but so incredibly worth it." Amelia snuggled closer, resting her head on my chest. "Promise me we'll always dive together," she murmured. "No matter how rough the waters get." "I promise," I whispered, tightening my arms around her. "You're my diving buddy for life now." As we drifted off to sleep, I felt a profound sense of peace. The day's near disaster had only strengthened my certainty that Amelia was the one I wanted by my side, in calm seas and stormy waters alike. Little did I know, a storm was brewing on the horizon, one that would test the strength of our newfound love in ways we couldn't have imagined. The weeks following our underwater scare were some of the happiest of my life. Amelia and I fell into a comfortable routine, dividing our time between her research, our shared dives, and cozy nights in. We were building something beautiful, a relationship as deep and complex as the ocean we both loved. One sunny afternoon, as we strolled hand in hand along the boardwalk, my world tilted on its axis. A familiar voice called out, sending a jolt of recognition through me. "Avery? Is that you?" I turned, my grip on Amelia's hand tightening involuntarily. There, looking as striking as ever in a sundress that highlighted her blonde hair and blue eyes, was Catherine, my ex-girlfriend, the woman I thought I'd never see again. "Catherine," I managed, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "What are you doing in Newark?" She smiled, that same dazzling smile that had once made my heart race. Now it just made my stomach churn with anxiety. "I'm here for a conference. I thought I might look you up for old time's sake. I didn't expect to run into you like this." Her eyes flickered to Amelia, then to our joined hands. A flicker of something surprise, disappointment, crossed her face before she smoothed it into a polite smile. "And who's this?" she asked, her tone light but with an undercurrent I couldn't quite place. I swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how tense Amelia had become beside me. "This is Amelia, my girlfriend. Amelia, this is Catherine, my ex." The two women sized each other up, an awkward silence stretching between us. Finally, Amelia extended her free hand. "Nice to meet you, Catherine," she said, her voice carefully neutral. Catherine shook her hand, her grip perhaps a bit firmer than necessary. "Likewise. So, how long have you two been together?" "A few months," I replied, wishing desperately for a way out of this conversation. "It's still relatively new." Catherine nodded, her eyes never leaving mine. "Well, isn't that lovely? Avery, I was hoping we might catch up while I'm in town. For closure, you know?" We left things so, unresolved. I felt Amelia stiffen beside me, her hand squeezing mine almost painfully. I'm not sure that's a good idea, Catherine," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, come on," Catherine cajoled, reaching out to touch my arm. "Just one drink for old time's sake. I'm sure Amelia wouldn't mind, would you, dear?" Amelia's face was a mask of forced politeness. "That's up to Avery," she said, her voice tight. I found myself nodding, more out of a desire to end this excruciating encounter than any real wish to revisit the past. "Okay, one drink. Tomorrow evening?" We quickly made plans, and Catherine sauntered off with a wave and a "see you soon, Avery." As soon as she was out of earshot, Amelia dropped my hand, crossing her arms over her chest. "What was that?" she asked, her voice low and hurt. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling a headache coming on. "I'm sorry, Em. I was caught off guard. I should have shut it down." "Yes, you should have," she agreed, her green eyes flashing with a mixture of anger and insecurity I'd never seen before. "Are you really going to meet her?" I sighed, reaching for her hand again. She let me take it, but her fingers remained limp in mine. "I think I need to get closure, like she said, so I can fully move on with you." The walk back to Amelia's apartment was tense, filled with an uncomfortable silence that was so at odds with our usual easy companionship. Once inside, Amelia busied herself making tea, her movements sharp and agitated. "Talk to me," I pleaded, leaning against the kitchen counter. "Tell me what you're thinking." She set down the kettle with more force than necessary, turning to face me with eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm thinking that I'm scared, Avery. I'm thinking that this woman swoops back into town, looking like a supermodel, and suddenly you're agreeing to drinks and closure. I'm thinking about how new we are, and how easy it would be for you to slip back into something familiar." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I moved to her, cupping her face in my hands. "Amelia, no. That's not what this is at all. What Catherine and I had is in the past. You're my present and my future. I love you." She leaned into my touch, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I love you too. That's why this hurts so much. I feel like I'm on shaky ground all of a sudden." I pulled her into a tight embrace, my heart aching at the tremble in her body. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I made you feel this way. Do you want me to cancel with Catherine?" Amelia was quiet for a long moment, her face buried in my neck. Finally, she pulled back, wiping at her eyes. "No," she said softly. "No, you should go. You're right, you need closure. And I need to trust you." That night, as we lay in bed, Amelia clung to me tighter than usual. I stroked her hair, murmuring reassurances until she fell into a fitful sleep. But rest eluded me. I stared at the ceiling, my mind a whirlpool of conflicting emotions. I loved Amelia, of that I was certain. What we had was real and deep and beautiful. But Catherine's sudden appearance had dredged up memories and feelings I thought I'd dealt with long ago. As the first light of dawn crept through the window, I made a silent vow. I would meet Catherine, find the closure we both needed, and then devote myself fully to the woman sleeping in my arms. Little did I know, the next evening would test that vow in ways I couldn't have imagined. The waters of my past and present were about to collide, and I could only hope that the love Amelia and I had built would be strong enough to weather the storm. The evening of my meeting with Catherine arrived with an air of foreboding. Amelia had been quiet all day, her usual vibrant energy subdued. As I prepared to leave, she pulled me into a fierce hug. "Remember what we have," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I held her tightly, breathing in her familiar scent of sea salt and lavender. "Always," I promised. The bar Catherine had chosen was upscale, all polished wood and soft jazz. She was already there when I arrived, looking stunning in a form-fitting black dress. For a moment, I was transported back to our past, the passion, the drama, the intensity that had ultimately burned us both. "Avery," she purred, standing to greet me with a kiss on the cheek that lingered a beat too long. "You look amazing." We ordered drinks, slipping into an easy conversation that belied the years apart. Catherine laughed at all the right moments, touched my arm, leaned in close. It was familiar, comfortable, and completely wrong. As she regaled me with stories of her life in the big city, I found my thoughts drifting to Amelia. Sweet, passionate Amelia, who saw the wonder in every tiny sea creature. Amelia, whose love was as vast and deep as the ocean itself. "Avery?" Catherine's voice cut through my reverie. "Are you listening?" I blinked, focusing on her face. In that moment, I saw Catherine clearly for the first time. The carefully cultivated image, the calculated charm. It all felt so shallow. "I'm sorry, Catherine," I said, straightening in my seat. "But I can't do this." Her perfectly manicured eyebrows rose. "Do what? We're just having a drink." I shook my head, a weight lifting from my shoulders. "No, we're not. You're trying to rekindle something that's long dead. And I'm wasting time when I should be with the woman I love." Catherine's face hardened. "You can't be serious. This mousy marine biologist? Avery, we had something special." "We did," I agreed, standing up. "But it's in the past. What I have with Amelia is real and deep and more beautiful than anything I've ever known. I'm sorry, Catherine, but this is goodbye." I left her sitting there, slack-jawed, and rushed out into the night. The cool ocean breeze hit my face, and I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time all evening. Without hesitation, I headed for the beach. I found Amelia where I knew she would be, sitting on our favorite stretch of sand, staring out at the moonlit waves. She looked up as I approached, her green eyes wide with surprise and hope. "Avery? What are you doing here?" I dropped to my knees beside her, taking her hands in mine. "Being exactly where I should be. Amelia, I'm so sorry. I should never have agreed to meet Catherine. You're all I want, all I need. Tears glistened in her eyes. Really? You're sure? In response, I pulled her into a deep, passionate kiss. When we finally parted, both breathless, I rested my forehead against hers. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You're my ocean, Amelia. Vast, beautiful, full of wonders I've only begun to explore. She laughed softly, her hands coming up to frame my face. And you're my anchor, Avery, keeping me grounded, even in the stormiest seas. We stayed on the beach for hours, talking, laughing, and making plans for the future. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in soft pinks and golds, an idea struck me. Let's go for a dive, I suggested, grinning at Amelia's surprised expression. Now? But we don't have any gear. I stood, pulling her up with me. We don't need it, just a quick swim to watch the sunrise from the water. What do you say? Her answering smile was radiant. I say yes. To this, and to everything else with you. Hand in hand, we waded into the cool water. When it was deep enough, we dove beneath the surface, our eyes meeting in the crystal-clear shallows. In that moment, surrounded by the element we both loved, I felt a profound sense of rightness. This was where I belonged, with Amelia, in this beautiful underwater world we shared. We surfaced just as the sun crested the horizon, painting the ocean in shimmering gold. Treading water, I turned to Amelia, struck anew by her beauty in the dawn light. Marry me, I blurted out, surprising even myself. Amelia's eyes widened, a surprised laugh bubbling from her lips. What? I grinned, suddenly sure. Marry me, Amelia. Let's build a life together, above and below the waves. Let's explore the oceans, protect them, grow old telling stories of our adventures. What do you say? Will you dive into forever with me? Her answering kiss was salty with seawater and joyful tears. Yes, she whispered against my lips. 1,000 times yes. As we swam back to shore, our hearts full and our future bright, I marveled at the journey that had brought us here. From that first chance encounter underwater to this moment of perfect clarity, Amelia and I had navigated the unpredictable currents of love and found our way to each other. In the years that followed, we built a life as beautiful and diverse as the coral reefs we love to explore. We opened a diving school, dedicating ourselves to sharing the wonders of the ocean with others. Our research contributed to marine conservation efforts, and we found fulfillment in protecting the underwater world that had brought us together. But the greatest adventure of all was the love we shared, a love as deep as the ocean, as vast as the horizon, and as enduring as the tides. With every dive, every kiss, every shared moment of wonder, I fell more deeply in love with Amelia, and I knew, with unshakable certainty, that I would